Hey Vidme, so there's a few HEMA content creators on here now, and there's been dozens of videos, but I realised something. Nobody has stopped to make a video about what HEMA actually is. So HEMA stands for Historical European Martial Arts, and it's an umbrella term. It covers hundreds of different styles, and there is some debate and some disagreement about what's actually included in HEMA and what isn't, but at its core, it covers any European martial art pre-World War II which has since died and been revived via the use of training manuals. Now, I have seen some people use some slightly looser definitions, so I've seen weapons included where there are no training manuals, and people have used pure experimentation to figure out what works and what doesn't. And I've also seen American Civil War military saber styles being described as HEMA as well. Even though they're not European, they have clearly evolved from European styles, so I've actually seen people include that in HEMA as well. But yeah, HEMA includes the use of weapons such as longsword, rapier, military saber, sword and buckler, backsword, broadsword, staves, spears. But as well as weapons, most people think of weapons when they think of HEMA. HEMA also includes old styles of wrestling, Viking wrestling, lots of English styles of wrestling and folk wrestling, and classical pugilism or bare knuckle boxing. So it's a very, very broad art. It's saying HEMA is about as vague as saying Asian martial arts, but generally, most people think of weapons when they talk about HEMA. So how are these styles created? Well, the primary thing is by looking at the sources, and the good thing is all of these sources are ancient, and so there's no copyright on them. They're all available completely free online. Lots of links for all of the stuff I talk about down below, by the way. So that's the primary thing, but there's also lots and lots of experimentation, lots of sparring, examining the properties of the weapons, the armour, and the culture which the style came from, test cutting, tournaments, collaborating, and then there's the occasional childish feud and heated debate. So, yeah, we may not end up with a style which completely replicates the ancient styles, but hopefully we will end up with something which is a good approximation to the original style, and we certainly end up with something which is functional and effective. I've found that HEMA does stack up really well against non-HEMA styles such as modern fencing, kendo and kenjutsu. So there's no single governing body for HEMA. There's lots of different organisations. HEMA is just the name of the activity, and there's lots of different interpretations for individual styles and that kind of thing, and it's not 100% refined yet. It's constantly evolving, but that I consider a really interesting thing. To me, it really reminds me of the early days of the UFC, where nobody was 100% sure what was going to work and what wasn't, and a lot of it was just sorted out through trial and error and experimentation and fighting, and that's something I really love about it. So, if you're interested in HEMA now, and hopefully a few people will be, and you want to learn HEMA yourself, how do you go about finding a club? So the first thing you can do is search online. There's a pretty cool website, a pretty cool page on the HEMA Alliance page where you can find a local club, so hopefully you can find something there. But if you can't, don't worry, my club isn't on there either, and lots of other clubs aren't on there, so do more searching online. Maybe join one of the HEMA forums, such as the Schola Forum, and ask on there, see if there's anyone in your area, and maybe you could even start your own club. Start your own club with someone who wants to experiment and learn from for themselves. And if you still don't find anything there, ask at your local LARP groups or fencing groups or reenactment groups, because we do occasionally get a bit of crossover from those groups as well, so you might still be in luck, you might still be able to find something. And next we come on to expenses. I'm sure a lot of people will be thinking, well, fucking hell, this is just going to be really expensive, I don't know if I can do this. So your lessons, they're probably going to cost about the same as any other martial arts group. It'll depend on the class. Everybody obviously has their own policies as far as that's concerned. But quite often you'll get your first lesson for free. Even if they don't offer that, you can still stay and watch and see if it's for you a lot of the time. As for expenses, your club will often provide training weapons and fencing masks and all of those kind of things which you're going to need, but you will eventually want to get your own kit. First piece of kit you want to get for yourself is probably going to be the fencing mask, because the club ones do tend to smell a bit sometimes, so that's going to cost you probably somewhere between £30 and £70. Then you'll probably want to get yourself some gloves. Gloves are very, very important, not so much with basket hilts like this, but if you're using a weapon with a crossguard, for example, you are going to want to protect your hands. Gloves are very important, so you can use any old sort of leather glove when you start with, but eventually you will want to get some decent HEMA gloves. The only ones I've really got experience with, the Red Dragon gloves, they cost £35 I think, so I'll leave a link to those. They're fine. Occasionally if you get hit wrong you can it can hurt, but they're not too bad. And after gloves and the fencing jacket, you will want to get your own weapons. So you can get a functional sparring sword for about £200. Really, I wouldn't want to go any lower than that, because they can tend to break and not to be too great quality. There are a few okay ones out on the market below that, but spending more's better. It's going to last for a long time. If you don't have the money for one of those, get a synthetic sword temporarily. So they're going to cost you probably somewhere between £30 and £70 depending on what you get, and they are pretty good for beginners. They're absolutely fine, and they will do you until you have the money to get a steel sword. So after that you'll probably want to get a gambeson, so it's thick padded, so it's basically a thick padded jacket, and they're not too expensive either. But you can build it up in your own time, there's no rush, and your club will generally supply lots of that kit for you anyway. As for risks and difficulty, it's going to depend on you. If you really don't want to get hurt very badly, then get more protective gear, but your instructor isn't going to push you into anything which you're not ready for. If you're not ready to spar, you can just do techniques, and you can spar at a pace which suits you, and generally people are going to be very accepting about that. So you don't have to be physically fit or strong or brave to start with. You'll go at a pace which is suitable for you. Just speak to your instructor and they should be quite understanding. But at the same time, if you are, a big strong guy who wants to fucking go all out and, wants to really sort of prove themselves, there's a place for you there as well. You'll find plenty of other people in the HEMA community who are willing to let you sort of push your limits in that way as well. So that's about it. I may make a follow-up at some point, but I'll leave a link to all of the things I've talked about down below so you can find out more information. Thanks for watching. Comment, follow, tip, subscribe, all of that good stuff, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.